is deferred revenue and expenses, and how that all can work in with your year end and things like that. If you have any questions, please go ahead and place them in the questions area. I will answer as I can. If you can't see my presentation, please let me know that also. Um, I see somebody on. Chelsea, is that you? No, okay. Whoever's on from our side, if you see a web or a question that comes up and I don't see it, can you just let me know? Okay, so we're going to go into deferred revenue and expenses. I have a few slides I want to go through, and then we're going to jump into the product and look at it. But the agenda for today is really how to set up revenue and expense deferral and how it interacts with the GL, and how it can benefit you and not benefit you. The benefits of it is that it auto posts the GL. So when you're doing a payable invoice or receivables invoice, you can set up your deferral for however many months you want it to go, and then it will automatically post that into your general ledger. There's not very many windows for setup, so it's very quick setup, and you can defer on the fly, but it won't update the main deferrals for future reference. So while you can defer it, there are some cons to doing that. So revenue expense deferrals, or how they do it, is red. There are some security rights that you need to set up for it. We will go into that quickly. But once you have it all set up, you are easily able to capture an entire invoice at one time and automate the distributions for the periods as it's needed. So those are some of the benefits of it. The deferral module is one of 3 options we regularly use to assist clients in managing deferred revenue. The deferral module is the easiest to use. It's quite flexible, and it allows a solid report option that ties out to the balance sheet accounts if you use that you use to hold your deferral amounts. It's really is based on posting into the future, but it gives you all of the views on what you're deferring and at what times and all of that pieces. So we are going to jump into GB, and I'm going to show you how this all works. Let me make sure you're seeing my GP, and there it is. So there are 6 modules that your deferrals can be used in. To set it up, it's all under your financial setup under the deferral piece. If you don't see this, sorry, I'm fighting a cold, so bear with me. But if you don't see your deferral module on your site, you're going to want to go into your registration keys, just under your registration, and make sure that your revenue expense deferrals is marked. So sometimes this doesn't get marked right away. So what you're going to want to do is make sure you mark it. And then once you mark it, you probably have to exit and get back in, but then you should see your setup portions in here. Now your deferral, this is your window for your setup. There's not many options in here, but it's just one window for your setup. It's going to give an audit trail code of ALTRN. So that you will see that audit code in your system. And so when you're looking in your general ledger, you will see that audit code prefix as a source document for all of your transactions. So if you did want to look in your general ledger for just your deferral ones, you're going to want to put in ALTRN. The next audit trail code batch number, it automatically creates batches or audit trail batches for you. That's a number. You can change that to be whatever you want it to be. Doesn't have to be the next number. It could be a letter with some numbers on it, just something that will auto generate or increment. So it needs a number that can increment on it, whatever you do. And again, we talked about the source document number, or the source document. That's the one that you're going to see in your GL. It's how it's called, the deferral document. So ALTRN is your document code. The next GL document number, again, that's a system generated number that happens when the next GL document gets done. You can put in whatever you want in here. It doesn't have to be a billion zeros and a 2. So whatever you're looking for or you want to use. The default calculation method, that's just how you want to calculate how your deferrals are going to run. So if it's equal parts per month, you can do it that way. If you want to do the days in the period, you can do it that way also. And you can also choose a miscellaneous, which is basically you tell it how many days or what you want to put in for your calculation method. I use equal because it's easier to calculate for me. So when I put in my 36, then I can calculate $100 a month when I use that. This bottom second or this middle section here basically is how you want it to work within your general ledger. So right now I have mine marked to automatically post through the GL. That means that it will not stop at the general ledger. It will post directly into your GL entries. So I always have that marked as yes, so I don't have to remember to go in and post it in my general ledger after I've done something. But you have the option for yes or no. Not a lot of options. You can choose whichever you do use. If you have workflows set up where you're choosing to have people for the general ledger use that for approval processes within the general ledger, you would want to mark that as no, so it will stop at the general ledger and somebody can approve that to go into your GL. The next 2 boxes are for if you want to post into the future or into the past for your general ledger. I've had people that allow to post in the future but not into the past. So these are separated out so that you have a decision that you can make. What your transaction will do is if you put it in for today or even for this month, it's going to automatically post each of those transactions each month for the previous years or for the next however many months you want to defer it. If it's 12 months, it's going to post 12 transactions, each 1/12 into each of the next 12 months. So that's why they chose to do a future GL period. Because if you have this marked to post into a closed period, then it won't stop in your general ledger, it'll just post. But again, those are options that you can choose. The next 2 options are if you use the sales series posting, you can choose whether you want to do a balance sheet posting method or a profit and loss. The differences with the balance sheet, you get one P&L and one P&L for your sales account and one deferral account. When you use the profit and loss method, you get 2 deferral accounts and 3 profit and loss accounts. So 2 balance sheet and 3 P&L. The differences are if you want to separate those sales out to multiple to different divisions or different areas within your sales accounts or your expense accounts, whichever way you're going to do. And you have those based on either the sales module or the purchasing module. The reason why it's not in the GL module is because the GL basically allows you to decide what GL accounts you're going to use automatically. So you could do it yourself at that point in time. And then you have voiding deferrals with their original transactions. This is nice because if you do put in a payable transaction and then you decide not to pay that vendor and you want to void it, it will also void your deferrals that you've put in when you posted that. So I always recommend to keep that marked. And then allowing all user access to the deferral profiles. I usually leave that marked yes, but you can say no. And then when you're doing your profiles, you can go in and choose who you want to have it set. Down below is just how you want to use your overrides in your distribution accounts. And then in the right-hand side is your posting reports if you want them to go to the screen printer or a file. And then you do have some warning options where it will give you warnings if people try to change the distributions in these different accounts by those modules. I'm going to go ahead and save this. So that's your first part of your setup is this deferral window. The second part of your setup is really more of the setup portion of it. So under your deferral profiles here, this is where you can tell it based on module what you want it to do. So remember, I had my deferral for sales and purchasing set up for balance sheet accounts. So I have one balance sheet account to one income statement account. And when I look at that in my profile, I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose my payables management. I can see that for my cost recognition, all of my costs are going to go to this 4510 account, and my deferral account is my expense account. On the left-hand side here, it shows me which modules I can choose this for. I'm doing one-to-one relationship. So when I chose payables management, I chose my account numbers, and when I change my distribution for my purchasing account to my deferral account, then this is what it's going to do. I can also tell it based on this profile how many months I want to do this in. So you can set up profiles to be different number of months, different GL account numbers, whatever you want to do with this. So on this portion, I have it going to this 1400 and I have it in 36 months. But I do have one in here for software for 3 years. So based on this deferral account on unearned income, whenever I use the receivables management, sales order processing, or invoicing, and I change my sales account to this 2115, it's going to do 36 months. I could set this up for 12 months. Again, you have your default choice of what your calculation method's going to be, equal per period, but you could also change it based on the profile name. And then based on this profile name, you can tell it which users you want to have access to using this profile. So I'm in as SA and I am allowed access to this profile, but I'm not allowed to override anything. So if I want to be able to override the number of periods, I could change that. that's really it for setting up your deferrals. So quickly, we're going to go through how this all works. So I'm going to do expense of purchasing AP transaction. And I'm going to put in a vendor and a document number. And I'm going to put in $2,400 because I'm going to defer this over 2 years. And I'm going to hit my distributions. So for my purchasing side of this, and actually I'm going to take this tax schedule off so we don't have any taxes associated with it. I'm going to hit my distributions again and default this. So now I have my accounts payable and I have my purchasing. Well, my deferral for my purchasing was the $1,400, which is prepaid expenses. At this point in time, I can go up to my additional and I can choose my deferral profile right from here. And I can go into my PM here, and you'll notice that my deferral account is $1,400 and it's going to this $4,510. At this point in time, I can change this and say I only want to do 24 months. So now it's going to make my even $100. And you'll notice that on the schedule, it's going to post $100 on today's date, which my date for my test environment is 4/12/2027. And then the first of each month, it's going to post a GL entry all the way until it's 0. So it's going to go through 3/1 of 2029, 2 years. I'm going to hit allocate here so that it attaches that to it and hit OK. And then I'm going to hit post. And I'm going to X out. We're going to look at this journal. Okay, so the first one, let me just take this down a little bit. I must have been blind that day, is just the invoice itself. So it basically just tells you you're paying $2,400 to this customer and that it hit this prepaid expense account. So that one's fine. This one is the GL that shows that it's going to post to the prepaid expenses directly. And again, the summary of that. And then now when you get to your general ledger posting journal, you're going to see where it's going to start posting from your deferred. Notice you have your ALTRN for batch ID. And this is going to show you how it's going to post. So the original one posted to the 2,400 to the expense account or to the deferred account and 2,400 to your payables. This is showing where it's now allocating that $2,400 and it's going to put $100. It's going to credit $100 out of the 1,400 and it's going to put it into that income statement account that I had set up on my profile for $100. And it's going to show you that it's doing that all the way through 2029. So it does automatically post this to your account. But if we look at that GL account, on my prepaids, you'll notice that we have the $100 coming out. And you're probably wondering where the $2,400 is. And it's probably sitting in my AP because I don't have my GL set up to post transactions through the GL. So if I look at my batches, I'm probably going to see a PMTRX right here that has that $2,400 in it. So I'm going to post this. And then this will make more sense. You'll notice I have the $2,400 in there and $100 coming out each month up to $100 up to 2029. So you see all those going through. You have that same ability to do that within sales. I was going to show you this. In the profiles, it shows you better. You have the same ability to do that in receivables, in payables, in your sales order processing or your invoicing, and purchase order processing. So as long as you're hitting that deferral account or one of the deferral accounts based on if you're doing income statement or balance sheet, then it will populate that, but it does it on the distributions, not on the original side. So if I were to pull up a transaction, let's see if I have one out here. Do I have one out here? Yep. So let's just grab one of these invoices. So I have this $89,000 invoice. If I go to my distributions here and under my sales account, I were to put 2115 for my sales. For my sales here. Then under additional, I would see my deferral profile. And from there, I could choose, from there, I could choose, it's not gonna let me do it, what I wanted. And I could also go into my deferral here and just set it up on the fly. So this is what it's meant to set up on the fly. I can go in here and I can say 501, 530, 2030. And then it will tell me what the option is. And I can choose what my billing recognition GL account is going to be and where the deferral is going to go to on that. And I was on the sales commission here, but if I was on here, this is probably why it didn't let me do it. Yep. So I can take this out to 70 months if I wanted to. If I had a valid fiscal year, we could do 48 months. Nope, still not gonna do it. Don't have all my years up. So I can choose things on the fly and allocate just this one portion or multiple portions. And based on the type I have selected for that profile, I can go in and I can choose which types of these I want to do. So commission expense probably would not be one that gets deferred. Sales, but you could choose any of these different types in there. And in the GL portion of it, you do have the ability to just do a document at the journal entry level and choose what recognition account and what deferral account you want and how many months you want to do it and what you want to the dollar amount you want to put or take in or out of that. So if you did have an invoice that got through that you put into your prepaid and you wanted it to automatically go through and calculate and do that journal entry, you can come into your journal itself and do it once and then have it all go. Let's see. Let's go back to our slides. So again, this is the setup window. And here's kind of a description of what the methods are and how they work. And we kind of went through all this. This distribution type right here is what I was talking about. So based on the GL distribution type, which distributions are they looking for this number in? And then is that one that I can put a distribution on? So you could have it going to multiple different GL accounts if you wanted to, by just doing the deferral and not using that posting. You can choose your own, or you can set up these profiles so they automatically do the calculation for you and you don't have to think about it. All right. We looked at the windows and under the additional. Now remember that this additional is only going to show up when you're on a distribution window. So if you're trying to find it on here like I was doing earlier, it's not there. You're going to want to look at it from the distribution side. And then here are your journal entries that I had. If anybody would like to have this deck, if they want to send me an email, I can send this deck out to you. Anybody have any questions? All right. Well, just to let you know, we have a few more upcoming webinars. We have a self-service for Dynamics GP. That's with E1 tomorrow. And then next week we have the GLAP and year end at 1 o'clock. We have a presentation for budgeting from Dynamics Budgets on 12/16, and then we have the payroll year end on 12/17. Next week's going to be a busy week, but you're more than welcome to come and hang out with us for 30 minutes or so and learn some things for year end and other things that could help you with your upcoming years. And we certainly do appreciate everything you guys do for us. I didn't see any questions, so I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great afternoon.